Welcome back, students. We are still busy with topic 1, information processing in the business organization. But today we need to look at module 2. Our heading for module 2 is management in a typical organizational environment. Okay, and that will be on page 8 of our prescribed textbook. As always, we need to look at our learning outcomes. We need to define the term management. We need to identify management elements or functions in an organization. And also we need to identify various levels where management is involved when decisions have to be taken in an organization. For our introduction, let's start by looking at a definition of the word management. There's a definition for you guys. Management is the process of planning, organizing, staffing, leading or directing, then also coordinating and controlling the activities of a company for it to achieve its goals. These activities that we've referred to in that definition, guys, I'm referring now to planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. They are often referred to as the management range or the management process, or even sometimes people speak about the management cycle. So all of those activities form part of the management range or the management cycle or the management process. The purpose of management is to ensure that a group of people, remember an organization is a group of people working together. So the purpose of management or the managers in a company is to make sure that that group of people work in a way that will produce the required results. Okay, and managers achieve this by telling employees or staff members what tasks they have to be doing, in other words, what they are responsible for doing, and how they need to perform those tasks. Our second section looks at management elements or functions in an organization. So let's look at the elements, the functions, also called the activities of the management process or management range that we've seen on the previous slide. Okay, the first one, if you remember, is planning. Okay, planning involves determining the goals of the company for the future, as well as deciding upon the best course of action on how to achieve those goals or those objectives that has been set. There's a definition for you in terms of planning. So in a test or exam, if you're asked, this is the definition that you need to give. Planning is a process of formulating a vision, mission, short-term goals and long-term goals for the organization. Planning bridges the gap between where the company is at the present moment and where it wants to be in the future. So there's a definition. Oftentimes, as part of planning, a SWOT analysis is done. Okay, now you guys might have learned about a SWOT analysis when you were still at school, but let's look at more or less how it works. It's a very basic explanation that I'm going to be giving. The S stands for strengths. Okay, what does that entail? It's about determining your company's strengths and then you use it to your advantage. Okay, the W stands for weaknesses. And in this step, you determine what areas of weakness there are in your company, and then you aim to improve on it so that it actually no longer is a weakness, but it actually can become a strength at a later stage. Opportunities, you look for any and every single opportunity that comes your way, and as you can think, you might use your strengths to your advantage to make use of those opportunities, to take advantage of any opportunities. And then the T stands for threats. So in this step, you identify any threats that may prevent the company from achieving its goals, and then you put certain protective measures in place in order to prevent those threats from becoming an issue within your company. Okay, the second activity we're looking at is called organizing. You remember we spoke about planning, organizing, staffing, all of those things. So the second activity we're looking at is organizing. Organizing means that a manager must assign certain tasks and responsibilities to the people who have the skills to carry them out. In other words, he's going to tell each and every single employee what duties or tasks he or she needs to perform, how to perform it, and he's going to make sure that that particular employee that is giving a task to has the knowledge, the skills, the expertise in order to perform that particular task. Okay, so organizing clearly lays out who employees must report to. You remember the lines of authority. If you think about the organizational structure, that's what we're talking about. And organizing informs employees how they should be communicating within the company whenever they are encountering any problems. As well as organizing also aims to bring different departments together so the company can achieve its goals. Remember, we said that an organization or a company consists of many different departments. Now, the organizing activity tries to coordinate and organize all the various activities of the different departments so that they work together as one single unit for the company so the company can achieve its goals. Our third activity we're looking at is called staffing. Okay, the main purpose of staffing is to find the right people for the right job in order to allow the company goals to be achieved. Okay, so if we don't have the right people being appointed within the company to perform the various tasks that need to be performed, the company will fail. Okay, now finding the right people to come and work for a company, we refer to that as recruitment, okay, or the recruitment process. And let's see how it actually works in the table below. The first step is to advertise any vacant or available positions or posts within the company so that people from outside in the general public who have the relevant skills and expertise and knowledge, experience in other words, they can apply for that position. And that's the advertising step. Now the second step is to actually now go and filter through all of the applications of the people that applied for that available post. And then you select the best candidates that you are going to be conducting an interview with. Okay, it's basically known as shortlisting. The third step is you now make an appointment with the different candidates that you shortlisted, make an appointment with them, and then they come in for an interview, and you actually conduct the interviews and you ask them questions and you try and find out who they are, what their skills and knowledge is, what can they offer the company, so that all of that will happen during that interview. Then based on the interviews, you then select and appoint the correct candidate for the job. And then the final step, once you've appointed that person and then now officially become an employee of the company, you have to induct them or orientate them into the company, and you have to provide them with the necessary training for this new job that they've been appointed into so that they can be able to perform their duties. So part of staffing is also to, like I said, to train and develop the employees so they can perform their duties effectively and efficiently. So please remember, part of staffing, part of this activity is to provide training and development to employees. The fourth activity we're looking at in the management range or the management cycle is leading, directing. We can also include the activity called coordinating into this particular section that we're discussing. This management function ensures that all activities of all the different departments and all the people that work for the company are performed together for the good of the organization. It is the management function or activity where a manager influences, guides, supervises, and motivates staff members to complete their job tasks as expected. So it's all about motivating and influencing and guiding, supporting the employees of a company. The next activity is called controlling. Now, what do you do if you control as a manager? You basically set performance standards for the employees so that they know what standards they have to achieve when they are doing or performing their tasks, their duties. And then you also monitor those employees to see whether or not they are performing up to the standard you've set them and what's expected of them. And in addition to that, you also have to identify any obstacles that are preventing your employees. As a manager, you have to identify obstacles that's preventing your employees from meeting or achieving those standards that you've set for them. If there's any contextual factors that's preventing them from achieving the standards that you expect from them, try and find out what is it that's preventing them from achieving those standards. What's standing in the way, and then you support them in a way to remove those obstacles from them, so that they can actually now start meeting the standards that you've set. And we refer to this as remedial action. You're implementing remedial action to allow the employees, like I said, to achieve the standards that they are supposed to be achieving according to what you've said. Our third section for this particular lesson is called levels of management at which decisions have to be taken in an organization. So we're going to be looking at different levels at which management is involved in decision making. Those three levels that we are going to be looking at is in the figure below, or in the table below. Okay, and there is a picture of the three different levels. Basically, it's top managers or top management, middle management, and then first line management. So those three levels are the levels of decision making within any company. You're welcome to look at that picture and those bullets that's underneath each of those levels. For example, for top managers, they set the objectives for the company. They scan the environment in which the company functions, and they also make the planning and the decision making for the company, the overall planning and decision making. They guide and steer the company in the direction it's supposed to go to. Then the middle managers, they report to top management. They oversee the first line managers. They develop and implement activities of the various departments. They allocate resources to, for example, the core functions and everything. Then you get the first line managers. They report to middle managers. They supervise the employees. We're talking about the non-managerial employees. They also coordinate the activities of the employees that report to them, and they are also most involved in the day-to-day operations of a company. Please also take note that those three levels, the top management, middle management, and first line or lower level management, they've got different names as well. Okay, so for example, top management also has another name called strategic management. That will be at the top there. The middle one there, middle management, is also called tactical management. And then the lower level management, you can also refer to it as operational management. Now, those three levels of management that we've just looked at or spoken about, we now have to look at various characteristics of each one of those levels. And it's basically summarized in the following table that I've inserted there for you. So just to recap, we've already said that the top level of management is top management, and also called strategic management. Now guys, that will include, for example, your CEOs, your chief executive officers, your CFOs, chief financial officers, your directors, board of directors, of the company, as well as the president of the company, the vice president, and so forth. The types of decisions that's made at this particular level, top management, we refer to it as unstructured decisions. And then you're welcome to go and look at the column on the right hand side, which gives you a little bit of more information about the characteristics of the types of information that top management work with, the type of decisions they make, and so forth. So look at the right hand side column there, go through it yourself. Middle management, we said it's also called tactical management. That will now be your business unit managers, for example, your marketing manager, your sales manager, your production manager, etc. The type of decisions that's made at middle management level is called semi-structured decisions. And please don't worry about what unstructured means and semi-structured. We're going to have a look at that in a moment or two. So just take note of the terminology at this stage. Okay, lower level management, those are your operating managers, self-directed teams. We're not going to go into all of that. We are also going to be looking at, break it down into the details of what each one's roles are. So don't worry too much about those examples. There's more examples coming on slides after this one. What's the type of decisions that's going to be made at lower level management? Those we say is structured decisions. Okay, like I promised, we are now going to be looking at what's meant by structured decisions, semi-structured decisions, as well as unstructured decisions. And we've seen on the previous slide where each one of those slot in terms of top, middle, and lower level management. So the first one we're looking at is structured decisions. And like we said, structured decisions are made at lower level management. Okay, those are decisions that's made according to predetermined procedures to simplify the process. In other words, to make it as easy as possible for lower level managers to make decisions. They will be making their decisions based on predetermined procedures and policies that are set up already for them, and it was done most probably by top management. Also, these are routine and repetitive type of decisions, which means that the same decision has to be made on a regular basis. In other words, these are frequently repeated decisions. Semi-structured decisions, remember it's made at middle management level. Let's look at what it is. Okay, semi-structured decisions do make use of some predetermined procedures like we have in lower level management, but in many cases it does not only rely on predetermined procedures for decision making. In many cases it relies on a little bit of decision making that relies on human intuition, judgment from the decision maker. Okay, instead of only following a set procedure or a list of procedures in terms of what policy states and so forth. Okay, unstructured decisions. These are decisions that's made at top level of management. They are unstructured decisions and do not have any predetermined procedures to assist in decision making. So there's not like a list of procedures that you work through when you make decisions at top level management. That's why it's called unstructured. Okay, these are infrequent type of decisions, but they are very important decisions because they are crucial decisions that steer the company in the direction that it's supposed to go in. The correctness of these decisions made at this level depends on the experience, the prediction, and the intuition of the people that's making the decisions. In other words, the top level management, it's going to depend on their predictions that they make, their own intuition, and their experience. That will determine the effectiveness of the decisions that they're going to be making. There's a broad range of information sources that they make use at this level in order to make informed decisions. Now let's look at the roles of top, middle, and lower level management. But first, let's start with top management. What's the roles of top management? Top managers have the highest level of authority and spends a lot of time doing planning for the entire company and making decisions for the entire company to steer the company in a particular direction. Remember that these are the people or the managers that make plans, and they set the vision for the future. They come up with a mission statements, and they come up with the plans and procedures that's going to be followed in order for the company to reach its goals. Now the list below outlines the basic roles and responsibilities of top level managers, and once again that will now be, for example, your Chief Executive Officer, which is your CEO, your Chief Financial Officer, your CFO, your President of the company, Vice President, Board of Directors, etc. Let's look at the roles and responsibilities. The first one, they set strategic plans and objectives and policies for the company. They request departments to submit budgets, procedures, and schedules to top management. They appoint middle managers. In other words, the departmental managers are appointed by the top management. Top management also controls and coordinates the overall activities of all the departments. So they're not only in charge of a specific department, they are in charge of all the departments, to oversee all the departments. They maintain contact with the outside world and competitors. They also provide guidance and directions to all the other departments. And then they are, this is very important guys, they are accountable towards shareholders of the company. Looking at the roles of middle management, basically they control and motivate, and they also assist the first line or lower level managers to achieve the business objectives. So they are basically the link between the top management and the lower level of management. And they give feedback to top management about the business's day-to-day operations. Why do they need to do that? So that top management will be in a position to have information so that they can make decisions accordingly. Now, I've created another list for you of the roles and responsibilities, in this case of middle management. That's now, for example, your IT manager, your sales manager, marketing manager, plant manager. So basically the managers that's in charge of the different departments. We're speaking about these kinds of managers. What are their roles and responsibilities? Now, the first one, they basically execute the plans of top management according to the policies and the directives that is stipulated by top management. They are also responsible for doing planning for the smaller departments. In other words, each department manager is responsible for doing planning for his or her specific department. They also explain the policies that's set by top level management. They explain those policies to the lower levels of management. They also coordinate the activities of the department for their specific department that they are responsible for. They compile and submit the reports to top management. They evaluate the performance of junior or lower level managers. These are all examples of roles and responsibilities. And lastly, they inspire lower level managers towards better performance. Okay, lastly for today, we are going to look at the roles of lower level management. Lower managers focus on the day-to-day activities of the company. Okay, as a supervisor, they perform the control function over the employees who report directly to them, using their technical skills, knowledge, and experience related to the work they are supervising. So what I'm trying to say is that before these supervisors became lower level managers, in other words, before they became supervisors, they were actually appointed in jobs as non-managerial staff. They gained knowledge, skills, and experience in that particular job, and then later on they were appointed in a supervisor position where they can actually now oversee the job roles and duties of the normal staff that performs those jobs and duties that they themselves actually did at some stage and are knowledgeable and experienced in. Okay, therefore, these supervisors, they have direct contact and interaction with non-managerial staff, and they also have the most influence on them because they work with them on a daily basis. And if we look at the different roles and responsibilities of lower level managers, for example, your shift supervisor, your foreman, your crew leader, and so forth, we're going to look in this list at what exactly their roles and responsibilities are. Firstly, they maintain good working relationships with the employees. They also motivate the employees. They ensure that there's discipline within the company. They provide training to the employees. They allocate tasks to various lower level employees. They also tell them how to perform those tasks. They guide and instruct employees on their day-to-day activities. They are accountable for the quality and quantity of service and production. They present workers' problems and then make suggestions and recommendations to middle management based on the input that they get from the workers that report to them. Also communicate to higher level, they communicate the higher level goals and objectives that are set by top management. They communicate and explain that to the employees that report to them as supervisors. They also solve the complaints and grievances of employees. They also arrange the necessary materials, machines, and tools that are required by the employees in order to complete their tasks or do their jobs. And then lastly, they prepare reports on the performance of the employees, and then these reports are obviously then sent to the middle management level, and ultimately top management will also be informed about that. Okay guys, that was it for this particular lesson. You are more than welcome to watch this presentation as many times as you want or as many times as you need in order to be confident that you understand the work and that you will be able to give the correct answers in a test or exam. And we will see each other in the next lesson.